I choose us.
Gustav, it's such a great honor to have you in studio with me today. Welcome to the I Choose Us podcast. Don't you just please want to introduce yourself for the viewers that don't know you yet? Tell us a little bit more about your journey, especially when it comes to marriages. Where did that passion come from? And yeah, it's just such an honor to be with you. And I know that our session today is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. When my youngest daughter was quite small, the teacher came to her and said, listen, it looks like as if your dad has got an interesting life on Facebook, but what is he actually doing? And I asked my daughter, but what did you tell the teacher? And she said, my dad is a life speaker. And I thought on that day, this is actually what I'm doing, because I'm hiring out my mouth and I'm hiring out my ears. In the consulting room, I listen to people, what are the real life problems. As a life coach, you sit in, the rule is you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You must first listen. So I listened to people, and when I started my career, I studied years ago theology, psychology, and philosophy. And I thought between the two, I will get the questions and the answers for life. And very soon I got a break to become the in-house coach and counselor for a big petrochemical company, Sasol. And sitting there, I realized that you must sit with people and they are struggling with life. They're not getting life right. The game of business, the game of relationships, the game of marriage, all of those are part of the game of life. And people have difficulty in dealing with that. And they need all the help they can get. Yeah. And this is where I positioned myself as a life coach, to help people to do life. But in the beginning, I was quite annoyed because I wanted to be a speaker early in my life. I thought I was a man with a message. When I was young, I didn't know what it was to be a man and didn't know what my message was, but I felt was a man with a message. And it slowly crystallized. But in the beginning, I wanted to be a speaker, and now I had to listen. But my psychologist dad had no sympathy with me. He said, Gustav, you first listen. And I think over the years I had my finger on the pulse of many of the problems of many people. And over the years I walked stream up to develop programs. I do not just want to sit reactively and delve people or dig people out of the holes that they dig themselves into or draw people out of the deep water. I want to walk stream up and prevent them from falling in. And this is where my counseling and consulting room career coincided with my speaking career. So I developed a lot of motivational talks, be it on every aspect of human existence and how to do life. And one of the most important aspects, even as a company counselor, was the whole question of marriages. Because if you are experiencing problems at home, then you cannot focus at work.
Wow.
I once visited a person in hospital and his hands was literally burned off and because he threw the wrong switch, and those are huge currents in these big factories. And I said, what happened? He said, no, my wife or the woman I live with and had children with for many years dumped me. And I was just not focusing at work.
Amazing.
So if your problems at home come with you through the clock station into the workspace, then you cannot focus. And there's an old saying, when you are in the room, be in the room. So I want people to, when they are at home, be at home. So leave your job issues, take your feelings about your job home, but have a plan to focus on your family.
Yeah.
But then also, when you have a sorted life, you can be the best sports person or the best productive business person if you do not have the distraction of a lot of marital problems or issues, family issues at home. So it was a very wise company that said, but listen, help people also with their marriage issues. So I did, as a company counselor, a lot of marriage counseling.
That's amazing.
Over many years. And because you prevent in how many years, one accident, just from the point of the company,
wow.
How many money would they save? But I'm not so much interested just in the money. I'm interested in the happiness of the people. So you've got one life, and if I can assist people that to make the most of their life, then I'm a happy person. So this is why I want to speak life into marriages, into people, the businesses of people. I want to speak life into literally everything in a person's personal life. So that they can really make the best of life. I mean, so many people, all people die, but not many people live.
Yeah.
So so if I want to speak life, hence the words of my daughter who said, your dad, what does he do? He's a life speaker, because I want to speak life into the situation that people are faced with.
Amazing. Tell me, Gustav, I think there's nothing more, and I mean, you mentioned it right now, that has a bigger impact in your life than your marriage, being happily married. Because I mean, if you are unhappily married, it impacts every aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
And especially at work as well. Your work is influenced. Would you agree with me? And if I say that, I mean, that's probably one of the most important decisions that you can ever make in your life is the partner that you are choosing to get married to.
Exactly. If you deconstruct life to its bare essentials, then there are actually 4 things you have to sort out between sort of age 12 and 30. You must first find out who you are. You must find your identity.
Yes.
Because if you have your identity, then you've got some reference point. And given that, then you have to make two important matches. It's not only decisions, it's a match. So when you are like this, now you have to match yourself with a work worthy to your talent, and then you must also match yourself with a person, with people. So all the things that end up on my table as a counselor are related to this, because they are issues with work issues. I'm not in the right job, I'm not living my life purpose, or I'm not in the right relationship. And the 3 relationship choices you must make in life is number 1, friends, good life, bad friends, bad life. Then you must match yourself with a love partner. A good marriage, a good life, a compromised life if you have problems there. And then obviously you must match yourself with business partners. If you get the wrong business partners, then they will steal your money and so on. So the relationship choices are extremely important. But the most important of them is your love relationship. And then the third match that you actually must make is, because it's identity, and so it's who am I, what must I do, with whom must I do it? But then lastly, who must I follow? Because as human beings, we are open-ended. We are not like animals having an instinct driving our behavior. So if I go to a restaurant, I make a choice. I'm not just like have an instinct of just being a carnivore or eating whatever, grass or whatever. I can make a choice. Because we are open-ended, you need a value system to actually help you to make your decisions. And so there are many worldviews available, even religions available, but that is actually more of a relationship choice. It's actually the third relationship choice, because then you must match yourself with a person. In my life, I decided to match myself with the person of Jesus Christ, because if I look at humanity as a life coach, his wisdom, his example in life, the fact that he said God is life, and God is love, and love is life. So that is my most important decision that I wanted to make in my life. I wanted to find out who am I, what must I do, so my life, living my life purpose, match your talent to a need in the world. But then you must make the 3 relationship choices: friends, love partner, and business partners. But the most important one is not only a value system you relate to, but to be a personal and a personal relationship with the person who gave you the gift of life. So these are the 4 important choices. Now, most of the things ending up on my table as a life coach comprises one of these things, that there is something wrong with, something went wrong with one of these 4 aspects. Who am I? What must I do? With whom must I do it? And who must I follow?
Wow. Tell me, Gustav, I mean, our divorce rate in South Africa is so high. I mean, I think we are standing at 50%. What would you say, where are we getting things wrong?
You know, I've got so much sympathy with people. People are really going out there, and they really try. Nobody married to divorce. So we sit in a situation where people really try their hand at making a success at marriage, but they need all the help they can get. Because the most important thing is that we are not prepared for it.
Sure.
Where are the classes? They teach us maths, they teach us science, they teach us sport, rugby, netball, cricket, whatever it is. But where is the class in how to build a happy relationship or a happy marriage? So, number one, it is one of the biggest choices you make, but we do it without preparation, number one, without knowing what it entails. And without the right execution, because you can have all the preparation, you can be well prepared for the game, you can actually know what the game entails, but then you execute it terribly on the field. So there are numerous reasons that marriages fail. I think the biggest reason is people want a happy marriage. They say, how many of you want to have a happy marriage? Yes, I want to have one. No, sorry, you will never get one. Sorry, will have to build one.
Yeah.
You don't get a happy marriage. You build a happy marriage.
Sure.
So this is why the programs that I run is how to build a happy marriage, not how to sit there and expect the other person to make me happy.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky. I just got a nice partner. The question is not, do you have a nice partner? The question is, are you a great partner?
Wow.
And people ask the question, they always want the right partner instead of asking, am I the right person? You know, the basic thing I ask people is it nice to live with you?
Yeah.
Is it lekker to live with you? Yeah. And if you are finished with people, are they growing or bleeding? With that tongue of yours, or that behavior of yours? Would you like to be on the receiving end of that? Probably not. So that's the reason. The other reason is that they don't realize that preparation for marriage starts long before the wedding day. It starts with your education. It starts with your education of your parents teaching you how to leave a clean bathroom. It starts long ago when they instill values in you, values of faithfulness, values of commitment. So the building blocks of a marriage is quite important. So we think it is just starting at the day when you get all these feelings and fall in love and so on. No. The first starting point is marriage preparation starts when you're a very small child, because you must build on yourself. You must make something out of yourself, because you want to offer somebody something one day in your life. Now it's a 10, 20, 30 year building process to get something worthwhile to offer another person. And so many times I sit in relationships, and then I hear individually when people talk together or when they talk separately to me, because I do triple barrel coaching or counseling. I do not just give them relationship tips and tricks how to build relationships, but how to be a better person on this side and be a better person on that side.
Okay.
Because if you make a stew, you really need good ingredients. If the ingredients are a bit rotten, the stew will never be great. So I ask people to make sure that what do you bring to the table? Do I bring solid substance to the table? Do I bring a good relationship partner? And instead of asking, am I getting the right person, ask the question, am I the right person? So marriage preparation starts when you're way back, when you're a child, when you're single. Very often I hear people say in the consulting room that they say, I wish his mother raised him better. Or the other man the other day said, listen, I'm going to ask my mother-in-law some money here because now I'm a childminder and I wanted to marry adults. So she must pay me for this, which is actually quite sad.
Yeah.
We expect a person to be two adults entering into a relationship, and that you bring a good product to the table. That is, if you really want to put yourself out there, put something nice out there, put something great out there, put something of substance out there. And this is where marriage preparation starts way belong. It is the person you are that you put on the table, and then hoping that you match that with another person of substance.
What would you say, what sort of influence does your childhood, the house that you were brought up into, determine who you are today and what sort of marriage, how you relate in a marriage with a partner?
Obviously, the example that your parents set is of the utmost importance. So you sit here and people fail in marriages because they only have the example. If you had a abusive sort of parent, then you will probably do something similar, because children don't do what you say, they do what you do. They are good little monkeys. They learn through watching. They watch your behavior. So if you really want to help your child, demonstrate something better. So this is the most important aspect. But many people say, listen, I've been, now the past, I had such a terrible past and I've had so much difficulty there. And now I'm forever scarred, yeah. And this is who I am, take it or leave it. And usually if people say, this is who I am, take it or leave it, then I suggest for the other partner, say, let's leave it.
Yeah.
Because I always say, it's not your fault that you are the way you are, but it's your fault that you stay the way you are.
Sure.
Because every culture has got a responsibility age, be it 18, 16, 21, whatever. And when you reach the responsibility age, it's actually saying that I must now take responsibility for my life. It is not my fault that I am the way I am. I perhaps have been badly affected by the past. But now I can actually look at it and say, now I'm going to deal with it. Because there are two psychological schools in the world. The one psychological school is the school of determinism, which is actually Freud, Marx, Nietzsche, and Freud, those guys. So that you are determined by your past, and then you're forever doomed and scarred for life. Which is not true. Freud's successor in Vienna was none other than Viktor Frankl. And he is famous for saying that you are not determined by your past, but you are influenced by your past.
Yes. Yeah.
And obviously you're influenced, but now you can go and sit and get healing. You can heal the past. You can use it as an example. The past is there for nostalgia, to good memories, childhood memories, little birthday parties, but it's also there for lessons. I once had two friends many years ago. Both of them had very abusive parents. And the one friend became very famous on an international level. And yet he said, listen, I've got actually the perfect parents, because they were not perfect at all. But he said, I had the perfect example in them. Because in one aspect, he taught me a skill which gave me international fame. But the other said, I just took one look at my dad and realized if I do everything exactly opposite, then I've got the perfect example.
Amazing. Yeah.
And the other friend had similar parents, but I read in newspapers about him doing exactly the same things.
Wow.
Than his parents. So there's one person and another person who have the same or similar past, and they react differently to all of that. So the basic thing here is, yes, I've got great sympathy for people who grow up not because of their parents, but despite their parents. But sometimes I know that you become strong, because if there's no resistance in your life, you cannot grow muscles. My father always said, my psychologist father, he always said, a desert is the result of too much good weather. And storms can bring growth. So I know people who have taken a lot of threats of the past and turned it into opportunities. I believe in the human ability to not be determined by your past, but to determine your future.
So the power is in your hands.
Exactly. And you've got all the help you have. I mean, God is giving himself as the creator God, but also the recreator. And he can take any broken situation. And counselors are there to take brokenness and help people. So lots of consulting room work is counseling, which is more minus to zero. But I prefer the side of coaching, which is 0 to 100. So you cannot just heal the past and then now I'm at ground zero again. How about building something special? Yeah, you have the gift of life. That's the past. Now make something of the future. Create something. And that is the secret word. You can make something. You can create something. You can build something. And that especially applies to a good marriage as well.
I just don't get it why, no team sport or individual sport will you ever find someone just walking into it and thinking that, listen, I'm going to win this, without any coaching. I'm just going to make a success of this. I'm going to be world famous athlete or a soccer player or a rugby player with no coach whatsoever, no preparation beforehand. Why do we do that when it comes to marriages?
I'm on the same page as you are here, because it is so illogical for me that people want to do life without a coach. You cannot play the game of whatever sport without a coach. Can you win the World Cup without a coach? No. The best teams get the best coach. So it is a known fact that more women are willing to come to a consulting room, because when they have problems, they convene together and then they talk about it. And when men have problems, they tend to go into their cave, and they don't want to admit that they have a problem, because otherwise their friends will ridicule them.
Yeah.
And so then when they sort it out, and when they cannot sort it out, then they walk around like a grumpy old bear. And so they get all destructive in the process. So when a husband doesn't want to come for marriage counseling, I usually send a message through his wife to him and say, listen, do you have a favorite sport? Yes. That sports person or that team, do they have a coach? Yes. Now, how can they play the game of soccer, rugby, cricket, whatever, and they realize they need a coach? And you think you don't. So it is, you really need a coach, because it is not an indication of that I cannot do something. It is the best player get the best coach.
Yes.
So if you really want to excel in marriage, get yourself some guidance. And this is why people need all the help they can get. And this is where part of life coaching has got 8 big areas. But one of them would be relationship coaching. One would be marriage counseling or coaching, preparation, that people get into the groove, that they get the key performance indicators, that they know what are the things to focus on, what are the no-no areas, how do you have to manage this. So a great coach can shorten your learning curve. The older people, so if you look at these old grandpas and grandmas, they thrashed it out. They almost killed each other. But then finally they didn't kill each other or didn't divorce, and then found each other and still have a good relationship, growing lovely, growing old. But nowadays we've got so many things at our disposal, from psychometrics to all sorts of tools. You can really shorten your learning curve. Why waste 10 years of marriage in fighting it out and trying to find each other? Why not shorten your learning curve and get straight into why have a losing streak for a number of years before you start winning? Why not get into a winning streak with the help of a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said earlier that you build a relationship, and that's exactly this. It's putting tools in your hand before you even get married, before you're making a final decision. Listen, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person. Yeah. Equip yourself with the right tools.
And not only the tools, before the tools, you need a plan.
Oh.
Because if you want to build a house, you get 3 things: a picture, a plan, and a process. Now, lots of people picture the perfect marriage, but then they forget about the plan and they forget about to build it.
Wow.
So if you want to build a house, you take the picture to an architect. So then you make an architectural drawing, a plan. But you can have the plan on paper, but there's no house. Then you must get a builder. So you must visualize. Then you must get a physical plan, and then you must get an execution process. And that is what if you want to, it's actually not only true of marriage, it's overall true of life planning. I do a lot of workshops on which I give people architectural plans for the next chapter in their lives. And usually that is an overall life plan. I call it the picture on the box. So if you want to build a puzzle, put the pieces of the puzzle of life together, you need a picture on the box. So if you get that, now you can have this overall plan. But that is sort of jet skiing. It's on the surface. Now you can do scuba diving, to drill down, deep down, take a deep dive into how do you do love relationships? How do you do social life? How do you do professional life? How do you do your physical upkeep? So your spirituality. So that is the 8 pillars of a life plan. But I always ask people, do you have a business plan? They say, probably. Some people I can actually show it to you. Then I say, do you have a life plan?
What's that?
Okay. And then I say, do you have a relationship plan? And then there's a big silence. So I ask people, show me your plan. be a man and a woman with a plan. Because if you have a plan, you will reach something.
Yeah.
You will achieve something. But without a plan, you're just going left and right and up and down, and you beach on places where you don't want to beach, and you end up on the rocks. A man without a plan and a woman without a plan, it's a recipe for disaster. It's an accident looking for a place to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me, Gustav, I know that you've designed a workshop around marriages and a marriage program. Where did this come from? And I mean, for how many years have you worked with couples? And what led to you developing this program that can help people in their marriages?
I sat one day in the consulting room, and there was a cancellation, so I had 2 hours open. And the previous couple were fighting so vehemently that I almost needed trauma counseling. I was on the verge of saying, guys, you can fight for free at home. Here, you pay for it.
Yeah.
But I was so touched by that, that I actually sat and said, how can I fill this 2 hours? So what did I do then? I did reverse engineering. I looked back at my life since 1995 plus minus, doing relationship counseling in corporate context and in the lives of people. And so over many years, what are the issues? And I thought, let me make a list of all the issues ending up on my table. What are the things people are struggling with? And I thought it would be 6. It actually ended up to be 12.
Wow.
And I thought there are 12 recurring things that end up on my table. And not all couples struggle with all 12, but there's always a variation of these 12 issues. And then I realized I'm up to something here. Because if this is where the problems are, how can we deal with it? So can't we walk upstream to prevent that these problems end up on a counselor's or a consulting room table? And then I realized all these 12 areas, which include aspects like sex and communication and children and boundaries and all sorts of things. So all these 12 aspects had one single golden thread in common. And that was expectations.
Wow.
Because if you expect your partner to be faithful, that there's a little bit of fidelity in the relationship, that you say there's one princess, one prince, one castle, and not one prince and then there's another princess on the sideline or a prince elsewhere. So you go into a relationship with a valid expectation because there's a promise to it. But if that expectation is not met, then there's a big problem. It's just like going on holiday. If you go on holiday and you want 12 days and you expect 10 sunny days and 2 rainy days, okay, but you get 12 stormy rainy days, then you say it was not a good holiday because your expectations were not met.
Yeah, sure.
So a relationship like that is people want to get out because they say my expectations are not met.
Wow.
And then I realized, but how can I now crystallize these 12 aspects? And these 12 aspects, actually, I wanted to make it memorable. So if you talk about the metaphor of marriage, all relationships, how do they start? I mean, you remember as a small boy, you sit in the movie house next to the girl and you want to take her hand. You're so afraid that she's going to pull her hand away, the humiliation. But then you grab her hand, unfortunately, and then you hold it so fast, it's all sweaty after a while, but at least you're grabbing. So a relationship starts with the holding of hands. And in many countries, even in the legal marital vows, there is a part of, they ask this person, do you take this person as you legally wedded wife or husband? And then the answer is usually, the best answer on that question is usually yes. and then they say, give each other the right hand. Now, why do they do that? Because it's the sealing of a contract.
Oh, wow.
It's just like in business. Is this a deal?
Shaking hands.
Yes, it's a deal. Let's make a deal here. So this is why it's legally, because lots of people are illiterate. So this is part of the thing, that this is a legal deal. So if I want to make 12 things memorable, so 10 of the things you can get in the 2 hands. So it's the joining of the 2 hands.
Okay.
But then they usually exchange some rings. So this is why I call it the 10 thing to ring plan for a happy marriage.
Okay.
So, because in every marriage, the hands are joined and then the rings. So there are 10 things and 2 rings. And this is why I came up with to connect the 12 what I call key performance indicators or recurring problems or things that you must clarify expectations on, that I wanted to make it memorable. And this is why I call it the 10 thing 2 ring plan for a happy marriage. And I connected them like the ring of faithfulness or the ring of faith, or one of the fingers would be communication, the other one would be sex. So all of that is now connected, and lots of people enjoy it because it is quite memorable. The 10 thing 2 ring plan for a happy marriage.
Amazing.
I'm focusing on referring to the key performance indicators of a marriage.
Yeah.
But there's another story to it. Now with great pride, I worked this out, and I even worked out the visuals and everything. But I didn't sort of apply one of my own rules by talking to your wife first, communication. So I worked it out, and I took this to my wife, and she's a journalist, so she's very smart about things, and so I took it to her and said, listen, I'm going to help a lot of people with this new plan. And she read through it and she said, you forgot one thing. I said, no, okay, whatever it is, I'll fit it in.
Yeah.
I couldn't. So there was a 13th aspect. Now, how do I do it? How do I work it out now?
Yeah.
So now I call it the 10 thing 2 ring plan for a happy marriage. And plus number 13 that I should have asked my wife.
That's brilliant. Very important lesson there, people.
Theory is one thing, practice is another thing.
Yeah.
But you would be surprised how important that 13th aspect was. And I think it was a very valid contribution.
Wow, amazing. So you say everything is about expectation, managing expectations, not only communicating your expectations, but I think the challenge with expectations is that you've got 2 people with different expectations.
Yes.
Around those 12 aspects.
Obviously.
And the thing is mitigating that and communicating that and finding common ground somewhere. I mean...
Because this is a social contract. What most people do is they at least enter into a legal contract, and there are financial things. So what are the financial expectations? So you exclude some wealth, or you include, and you say, listen, we will, whenever we part, we will share whatever there is to share. So usually people go to the lawyer, and you have to go to a lawyer to get a prenuptial contract. But that is the legal contract. What about the social contract? So the expectations are the social contract. The basic social contract is, a marriage is, what is the difference between love and a marriage? Everybody can love. But marriage is about, in my local tongues, Afrikaans, marriage means trou, fidelity. So you can love a lot of people, but being married is, say, the first social contract is, it's me and you and nobody else.
Yeah.
So there's an unwritten rule here. There's a social contract here. And so we come into a lot of things, and those are the 12 things. You come into sort of a social contract where you make a deal. One of the 12 things would be roles. Who does what? So, no, I will never throw out the dustbin.
Yeah.
No, I will never prepare any food. So why not? Why can't we make a deal? There's a deal. You know, a lot of people are very sad because they say, listen, I have to do everything, and the other person just takes this relationship as a joyride.
Yeah.
And abuse me as a housekeeper or whatever.
Yes.
So you can see there are expectations to be met here.
Wow.
But it's not a selfish thing. So how does it work? The expectation thing. The expectation thing is you clarify expectations beforehand. This is sort of the secret recipe that I discovered.
Wow.
There are a lot of marriage programs, and they give the theory of marriage, and even the biblical foundation and everything. It's all about theory. But what I did is I didn't read 10 or 20 or 50 books about marriage and then came to a new theory from 50 other books. It's from the hardcore consulting room experience in hardcore settings that I realized these are the real life issues that people have expectations on. And so what I discovered is, if the two of them, and that can be before they get married, it can even be people who have been married for many years who forgot to do it. Even people trying their hand at a second marriage.
So it's not too late.
Never too late. So you can actually sit, and you can sit with each other and say, let's take these 12 areas point by point. So what are your expectations about money? because, money out of the back door, love out of the front door, very often.
Yeah.
So here we sit and we clarify expectations. So who's going to work? If the wife falls pregnant, what is going to be the situation? Is she going to continue her profession? What are we going to do there? So you can see there's a lot of expectations to be clarified. So what people do is, how I practically help people, I sit with people and I say, on their own, the man and the woman must sit and they must clarify their own expectations. What do I expect? Then they must have a crucial conversation. Then what is dating? It's about talking about how are we going to do things? Our parents messed up, or perhaps they had a good relationship. How can we repeat good things? So we can sit and say, but we have now the new chance to design a fantastic relationship.
Yeah.
So let's clarify. What are your expectations about money? What are your expectations about sex? So how many times? I get very practical in this program.
Yeah.
How many times a day for some people? So this is then, now if the expectations are totally different, you can just understand that there will be a huge problem. Expectations about personality, that I expect that my personality, even though I'm an introvert or an extrovert, will have some sort of a place in this marriage. I can actually be myself.
Yeah.
So this is the whole thing about expectations. So now if you clarify them and you come to a point, so I literally work with a fourfold process. Husbands, wives, expectations, come to a joint agreement. If you're A for okay on that, no problem. So, and very often couples have 8 out of the 12 things sorted.
Yeah.
But the others can be deal breakers. So these 12 things are the deal makers and the deal breakers.
Okay.
So now if there's only one of them can be a deal breaker. If you have this fantastic person, fantastic personality, husband or wife, but with this inability to keep themselves to themselves and want to have sexual relations with other people. I mean, if you want to do that, don't get married. Don't even bother.
Yeah.
So because marriage is about faithfulness.
Absolutely.
So the whole question here is, so you sit and you clarify expectations, and then you do not sit and after you've done that, now said, okay, now you must fulfill my needs now. Now I want you to fulfill that. Then you commit to, because there's expectation, there's implementation. So you clarify expectations, and where you are sorted, you realize this is our deal. We're going to work it out. We're going to renew this thing because the chapters in life cause you to have different expectations at different stages in your life. Where they cannot see eye to eye, this is when I say, but listen, come to the coach.
Yes.
Because then you can come for best practices. Because anybody involved in marriage counseling has got an unfair advantage in reading the books of others' lives, which are close to most people. So, I mean, your book is close to most people. You don't share intimate knowledge with everybody.
Yeah.
But as a life coach of many years, I sometimes feel that I've heard everything. Every now and then I'm surprised. But I hear a few new things. But then people come to me and say, listen, no, my expectation is this, and I insist on this. I say, sir, ma'am, you can try this. Quite frankly, in my, perhaps not a scientific research, but in my life, I've never seen it work. So get over yourself.
Wow. Wow.
So change that one.
Yeah.
So sorry for you, but you're at wrong at this, according to this specific point. So here we are. That we clarify expectations, and where you have unrealistic expectations, then a coach can help you and say, really? Okay, you lying there and everybody else must serve you in this marriage, and you're just having a joyride and everybody else must work? Ach, no, man. Get a life.
Yeah.
So come to a better understanding. And I think that is the advantage of shortening your learning curve.
Yes.
Instead of thrashing it out and fighting it out over many years and doing damage to the children and yourself and breaking trust, come early.
Yeah.
So do it as soon as possible in your life.
When would you say, on that point now, when would you say, I know many people might not have had the luxury to delve into these things before getting married, but ideally, when should one look at these 12 aspects? Is it during the dating phase? Listen, we exchange information, we share expectations. Listen, okay, that is deal breaker for us. Sorry, goodbye.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the most logical point would be in marriage preparation. When you're engaged and you want to get married,
about this relationship.
you're serious about this, then people must come to the table and they must really prepare for this thing. As you said aptly in the beginning, that people they prepare for everything else in life, but this is one of the biggest choices in their lives, and they don't prepare for it. So obviously sit then, and before you get married, so the moment where you want to get engaged, or the moment when you are engaged, come to the table, do some good, solid marriage preparation. Find each other on the different areas, see if there are personality compatibility, or how to deal with differences there. So all those things must be clarified, because you actually have the right to ask this: what do you bring to the table? So what can I expect of you? So there must be the thing must be clarified before the moment that you say yes in front of a presiding marriage officer.
Yeah.
So this is the most important time to do it. But there are a lot of people, sometimes it's actually good to do it when they're a few years into marriage, because you cannot give swimming lessons when people are in the desert.
Yeah.
So once they're in the deep water, then they're really teachable. So give a person 1 year of marriage, and then they say, now I need a course. How do I do this? So obviously you can do it 1 year after you got married, any year afterwards, 7 years, preventing the 7-year itch, all those things. And then 30 years. I even had a couple which was 90 and 93.
Wow.
And they came for marriage counsel.
Amazing.
Which was beautiful.
Yeah.
I just love them to bits.
Oh, shame.
And because they wanted to make the little life that they had left, they wanted to make the most of it. What is so beautiful. Then very often your first attempt at marriage didn't work, or the first and the second one, whatever. And then you want to try your hand to at least get some beautiful thing going.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to support people like that for second marriages or so, that people come and say, listen, we've learned our lessons, we grew up, we found our identity better, we now can come for some real advice, some real practical guidance. But all of this is logical. But once again, my good wife actually added a new thing to it. She actually looked at it, my changed program, the 10-thing touring plan plus number 13 that I should have asked my wife.
Yeah.
She actually said, so my wife actually said that the starting point for this should be before you even have a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Wow.
Or you can have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Because if you want to, it's like almost job shadowing or something. Because in your parents' house, you do job shadowing. You look at this relationship and you realize this is not a good example. Some people are eternally said, listen, I do not want to marry because if this is what it looks like. But then it doesn't have to look like that. So you can come to a point. So the most important time to do it is when you want to wrap your head around the concept of marriage. Okay. You can have a girlfriend, can have a boyfriend, but you can sit and then if you sit and say, listen, I contemplate in having a business, these are the rules for business. I contemplate in having a relationship, so these are the rules for relationship.
So you can make an informed decision.
Perfect, exactly. So now you can say, if I want to get married, this is what it entails. It entails this. It entails the sharing of space. It entails that I'm not a selfish bachelor or bachelorette anymore. It entails that, I always say, if you're single, you must be able to organize. If you're in a relationship, you must be able to compromise. If you cannot compromise, if you cannot share square meters in space, if you do not want to share your body, then you're not good marriage material.
Yeah.
So these are all the things that you must first sit and you realize this is what actually marriage is all about. You have to actually share your money.
Yeah.
Oh my, I didn't thought about that.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to wrap your head around the concept of marriage, so that and it also helps you then to make a better informed decision. Because if you know what this is all about, one of the 12 points is brokenness from the past. So broken people cannot build whole relationships. So if you date, be aware of that. There are people who come in with baggage. And if they don't have a plan or have dealt with it by now, then you will marry all that baggage. Do you want to do that? So be on the lookout. So at least it gives you the 12 things or the 13 things to look for. So in your decision-making process, that you know exactly what you're in for.
Gustav, can we dive a little bit deeper into each of those 13 aspects where we need to manage and communicate expectations?
Now, obviously, if we talk about the 10-thing touring plan for a happy marriage, these 10 things are the key performance indicators of a marriage. Those are the things, if you deal with them and you deal with it successfully, you will have difficulty in having a bad relationship. But if you don't deal with them, problems would be close by. So the first of the 12 things would be communication. So why do I start with communication? Because communication is the immune system of a marriage. Without an immune system, the smallest of things will kill the body. So communication has got three purposes. Communication has got the purpose of reactively sort out things. All marriages, there are issues coming in, and if you have a broom to clean out all the dust, then you have a clean relationship. But if you have this tendency of not talking about things or things building up or actually ignoring people, or ignoring your partner for too long and not talking about things, then that is quite an issue. So you need a broom. And this is the most important first aspect of communication, because if something comes in and you do not have conflict resolving skills and you shout at each other and throw plates at each other and all sorts of bad things and give you messages and insults and all sorts of those things like that, then obviously the relationship will not last. But if you have mechanisms in place that you can resolve conflict, I mean the typical mechanisms like iMessages, because if I say you are a whatever, then you will fight with me. But if I say I feel great today, you cannot fight with me. So if you have mechanisms like the tools that you talked about, of resolving conflict, of talking out. So when I got hurt, that I have the mechanism to talk about it, and I've got the freedom to talk about it, and that I can assert myself in communication. So it's assertiveness skills and communication skills. But that is the reactive -to 0. Nobody wants just like a conflict-free marriage where nothing is happening. So you need a broom, but you also need something to build. So you need the building blocks. So all builders, it is how to build a happy marriage. You do not want to have a -to 0 marriage, you want to have a 0 to 100 marriage. So how do you build a happy marriage? And that happy marriage is all about a tool, that how do you build it, and that you must talk a person's language, you must talk a person's love languages, you must have the capability of talking a person up and not down.
Sure.
And that tool I call the trowel. I mean, all builders know that you've got a brick here and you've got the cement or the dugger here, and then you have this tool that you can apply this and you put the brick and you build another good day into a lifelong relationship.
Yeah.
Now, these are the proactive aspects of marriage. How do you talk a person up? How do you support a person in all of that? And so that is a very important aspect of marriage. I referred to love languages. The world was blessed by Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, and it is so important.
Yeah.
But over many years, I felt that is not enough. There must be more to it. So I developed 5 more love languages. So first 5 love languages, fantastic. Quality time and physical touch and acts of service and all those good love languages. So, but there are actually 5 more, because if you talk in love about, you've got marriage is about intimacy. It's about the 4x4 of intimacy: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual intimacy. And the one love language which I found was missing was the one of a serious emotional connection.
Yeah.
You know, some people have a very sort of a flat coke existence. They don't want to have the strong emotional bond and don't get too close emotionally. Some people really want to connect emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can see it even with my daughters. 2 of them, nice little intellectual conversations, but the other one, we can connect emotionally. Man,
amazing.
We're talking the same language there. Mm-hmm. So that is another one. And then intellectual stimulation. That is a love language. You know, sometimes you're with friends or with people, you want to have a bit of intellectual conversation, you realize, no, I'm not getting it here.
Yeah.
But it's about brain connection. It's not about physical touch, it's about 2 brains touching each other. So, and then spiritual connection. Lots of people are not spiritual beings. They are secular. Other people want to share spirituality and how we see the bigger scheme of things and how things fit in and how we can talk about our deep, loving relationship for Jesus, for example. So these are 3 extra love languages. So there's a number of extra love languages. There are actually 2 more that I identified. But fact of the matter is, that is all. How do you build a relationship? It is through this connection, through talking the language.
Yeah.
And also to fulfill the needs. I mean, building the relationship is that you fulfill the needs of another person. Most of the time, relationships go wrong, that people say, but I think, do unto others that you would like to be done unto yourself. So if I like coffee and my wife loves tea, and now I must bring her coffee all the time because I must do unto others as I do unto myself. No. That's the golden rule for morality.
Yeah.
But the platinum rule for marriages would be do unto others as they would like to be done unto them.
Yeah.
So what do they prefer? So probably the best way to do this second part of communication is to sit and ask a person, how would you like to be loved?
Amazing.
How would you like to be loved? That I do not impose what I like onto you.
Yeah.
When I was dating, I think probably wasn't a good enough boyfriend. So the girlfriend those days gave me a bunch of flowers. Probably because I didn't give her enough. I thought, this is not my thing. Nobody's given me, it's not doing it for me.
Yeah.
So don't do unto others as you would like to be, do unto others as they would like to be done unto.
Yeah.
So this is talking each other up. So these are the 2 aspects. The third aspect of communication in marriage would be what I call the steering wheel, because you have the broom to sort out some issues, you have got the trowel to build a house and put the cement and get building blocks in and build something beautiful. Create life out of moments. You create moments in time, because what is a good marriage all about? It's about fantastic moments that you share. But then what about the daily schlep? And that is the third aspect of communication. I call it the steering wheel or the WhatsApp communication, whatever. It is hi, I'm driving past the shop. Can I buy something?
Yeah.
Can I buy something for the household? So it is, the people, what I see when in the consulting room, when people pass away, what do people really miss? Yes, they do miss the physical intimacy. But you know what they miss? Is that WhatsApp, that 20 minutes before the person arrives at home, they say, listen, I'm 20 minutes gone. I will be there real soon.
Wow.
It's that day-to-day thing that you've got somebody to talk to, that you say, hey, look at this. Can I send you a quick photo? Look at this. Look at what I'm seeing now.
Yeah.
Or there's something terrible happening here. Can I just share it with you?
Sure.
Now, that is what I call the day-to-day, the D2D, the day-to-day communication.
Yeah.
So communication is of the utmost importance. So if you do not have communication in a marriage, because if you cannot talk about issues, then you cannot even talk about the other 12 or 13, the other 11 or 12 issues in the marriage. So you need to have communication processes, protocols in place. Otherwise, the smallest little difference about raising children, about roles, about sex, about personality differences will scuttle the ship.
Yeah.
So communication is the starting point for any marriage program. But the 3 elements of communication would be the minus to zero immune system of communication, sort things out, have mechanisms, protocols in place, how to sort things out. Secondly, have protocols in place, how to build a relationship, talk people up, build the relationship day by day, because you build a great marriage, a good 20 years together. But then the absolute daily management of the relationship.
Yeah.
If there's a blackout in communication, how can you manage something? So this is the steering wheel of the day-to-day steering. Now, if you get protocols and mechanisms and tools in communication, oh my, then you're not only set for marriage, you're set for better business, you're set for better friendships, for anything in life.
Amazing. I love it. I just want to pause there for 1 second. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to intimacy, emotional connection, I mean, there's this stigma that, women, they are obviously a little bit more, they tend to be a little bit emotional than men. They crave that emotional connection more. Men on the other side might be a little bit more lean towards the physical side of a relationship, sex. Is that the case? And number one, because I mean, I know myself, I want to connect emotionally with my partner before I want anything else. Because a solid emotional and spiritual connection is going to take a physical intimacy to levels that you cannot even explain in words.
Yeah. You know, it is scientifically proven that women has got more emotion words in their vocabulary than men. So if you ask a man, what was it like? This, or this.
Yeah.
So give me more. I don't have more.
Yeah.
So, so it is true. So there is, and it's also my practical experience in the consulting room that talking about generalities. What do men crave? What do women crave more? If a man could share more of his heart with me, what do men crave more? If a woman can share more of her body with me,
yes.
So there's the heart and the happy place, and in general terms, for a woman it is through the heart to the happy place. For a man, it's through the happy place to the heart. So there's a different view of things here. But you also get some men who have women that are totally clinical, and men crave for some emotional connection, and the woman has got more of the male psyche. That they do not want this emotional connection. It's mushy and they don't like it. And sometimes there are women that are craving more of physical contact than men. So the rule is that there are very few rules.
Yeah.
But you can talk about to make things palatable or not palatable, to make things digestible or to get a grip on it. You need some conceptual apparatus. So you have to work in a little bit of generalities about all of this. But let's talk about the whole question of intimacy, because the four kinds of intimacy would be physical intimacy, it would be emotional intimacy, it would be intellectual intimacy, and it would be then, let's call it spiritual intimacy. So for young couples, I usually ask them now, after physical intimacy, what are you going to do the other 20 hours of the day?
Yeah.
So you must talk. There must be intellectual connection. You must share emotions. Yeah. You must perhaps pray together. A family who prays together stays together.
Yeah.
So the intimacies. But what is the joy about a relationship? It is the depth of intimacy. With good friends, you can have some emotional intimacy, but hopefully you don't sleep with all your friends. So it is. You sit here with a situation where you can go into deeper levels of intimacy. Because what is hell on earth? It is loneliness. It is alienation. What is heaven on earth? It is connection. It is intimacy. So if you have in a marriage the four intimacies, great physical intimacy, great emotional connection, great intellectual connection, and great spiritual intimacy, then you have the best of what can be offered on earth for a human being to share all those intimacies.
Amazing. I want to soundboard something with you. I've always been of the opinion that when it comes to sharing expectations in the way that I want to be loved, the moment we expect something from my partner, it feels like a weight that you put onto their shoulders. And I think it's human nature. The moment something is expected of us, we resist it. And the moment my partner then do these things, I question it. Okay, but did you do it now because I expect it from you, or are you doing it out of a place of love? So I was always wondering, should we not rather than communicate preferences instead of expectations? I love it when you do X, Y, and Z. It makes me feel special. So you give your partner like sort of a wish list.
Yeah.
And you can decide when you want to do and what you want to do on that list. But you will know that you're going to hit a home run every single time that you do any one of those things, because that's how you love to be loved.
In the building part of communication and action, how do you like to be loved? obviously you give preferences. So what I usually ask people is go and sit with, and do not even have to do it with your spouse. You can even do it with your children. I mean, I have 3 daughters. When they were very little, I once went to them and I realized I thought all of them liked little coffee dates with dad, a pappuccino and a baby chino and so on. And so when I asked them, how would you like to be loved? All of them gave a different list, I realized. But I'm thinking I'm talking their language, but I'm not.
Wow.
So obviously you give your preferences. But there are valid, you can call it preferences, but what's in a name? Preferences, expectations.
Yeah.
But the rule is not, okay, I give my list to you, now I sit here waiting.
Yes, exactly.
Guess what? It takes 2 to tango.
Yeah.
So it is, you talk about the expectations, but then you commit to bring your side. So this is where the commitment part comes in. So I know what your preferences are, but I commit to fulfill whatever it is. And I do not sit and wait on when are you going to feed me here. I'm sitting and say, listen, I offer something. So expectations is there. The whole thing, the whole idea where you have the list is that I offer this.
Yeah, brilliant.
I offer a safe space. I offer to you that I'm not going to fool around with other men or other women. I offer to you that I will help you in raising children. I offer to you that I will be there emotionally for you. I offer to you that I will share in the roles of the upkeep of this house. I offer to you that we will create a lifestyle together. I mean, all those things this is what I offer. This is what I bring to the table. You source your knowledge from the expectations, but then you put your life on the line.
Wow.
And you offer that to the other person.
Love it. That's serving.
Exactly.
Instead of waiting to be served.
Exactly.
Living a life of sacrifice.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's talk about the second point.
Okay. Obviously, the second point is the point of money. So there's a huge thing about money. So it is the sources. In any relationship, any family needs some money to sustain itself. So where's the money in the system? And couples cannot live. When do you go bankrupt? When you spend more than you bring in. So who's going to bring in the money? Is it both parents? Is it just one parent? Who's going to focus on the children? So who's going to, the whole thing about money? What are you going to do with money? Do you have some own spending money? Or do you going to give some money for charity? When one of the parents are more sort of, the parents couples are rich and the others are quite poor, how are we going to help them? How are we going to take resources? Are we going to support charities? How are we going to invest? Are we going to spend all our money and end up without anything? Or are we going to invest? So there's a lot of talk about money, and a huge amount of fights in marriages would be about the allocation of resources.
Wow. And also tithing.
Exactly.
A huge thing.
Are you going to give? And how much are you going to give? So all of that is part of this decision of how you're going to manage your money. Same bank account, different bank accounts.
Sure.
So how are you going to protect each other? What are the rules? Are you going to marry with accrual? Or are you going to have my money and your money?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good best practices and bad practices in that.
Yeah.
And sometimes people get married for the purpose of laying their hands on money. So there are also people with bad intention. They also get bad intention. It is not only women that are gold diggers. There are men looking for gold diggers walking around and wanting to lay. They're not interested in the person, but in the money. So there must be a lot of important decisions about that. And because people are too shy, in my program I give them a list of, literally a long list of questions that you must work through. What are you going to do with this? How are you going to do that?
Okay.
So money is probably one of the most important aspects in a happy marriage.
Absolutely. So Gustav, in this process of helping people now navigating the financial aspect of things, nowadays in the workplace, traditionally men were also always seen as being the provider, and I think that will always be the heart of every man, is to provide for his family and to provide for his wife. But that's not always the case, and I can imagine that can sort of bring, that's a hot topic. When the wife, for instance, earns more money than the husband, to navigate that.
the most important thing is you must first ask yourself, are you going for standard of living or quality of life? So if people go for standard of living, there are big choices to be made. So we want to chase a lot of money, but what are we losing in the process? You can win the financial game, but you can lose. You spend all your time there, and there's no time for each other.
Yeah.
So obviously, it is difficult nowadays to make the money thing work. So sometimes both parents must work, and very often it is the case that the type of job that a person chose has got a sort of a income limit. I know a lot of couples where the wife is earning a lot more than the husband, and they're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Because it is a person, the woman is comfortable with herself, and they know how to manage it, and the husband is also comfortable with his role, because it's like a pastor friend of mine and his wife is a legal practitioner or a medical doctor or whatever. So it can happen. I also saw it that some people, in one or two cases, then when the wife starts to earn more, that she uses this as a leverage to say, what a bad person you are. And if you do not manage it well, I was very happy the other day that a friend of mine divorced because he had a wife from hell who wanted to use this and say, look at this, how successful I am. Just because they chose different jobs with different top income potentials.
Yeah.
So if brokenness comes in there, it will manifest in the field of money. The most important thing is money is a resource. Money is not a goal. It is actually not a purpose in itself. It is a means to an end. So it is the power in which you can make things possible. And there's a balance between spending all the time to get the money and then there's no time to spend it or to use it to build yourself a good life or buy a good life for your children and for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive issue. But people must really sit down, and people just get married and they just say, we don't talk about any of this.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest problems, fights about money and resources.
Absolutely. Gustav, we talked about communication, we talked about finances. Let's move on to point number 3.
Point number 3 is intimacy. So it's communication, it is finances, and it is intimacy. Now, intimacy is very important. You must clarify expectations. I sat the other day with a young couple, and they are very, very innocent couple, and on the point, ask him now, how many times do you think you must have sexual intercourse and so on? And the young man said, 2 to 3 times a day. The girl almost fell off the chair. And after she sort of recovered, I asked her, what did you think? So, I thought so once a month.
Oh my word.
And I mean, you could just think if they go into this relationship, expectations were totally different.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, I keep contact, so I follow them on social media, so at least they have now 3 children.
Okay, cool.
So they've done it 3 times.
Shame, man.
But you can see, on a practical issue, there's a lot of things on physical intimacy that people must talk about. It is what is comfortable. Do you experiment sex during menstruation? So there are a lot of things. People are too shy to ask these questions.
But it can become huge if you don't discuss it, if you don't talk about it.
Exactly, and because the only one of the valuable things that the 10 thing to ring plan brings to a couple is it gives them the checklist of questions to ask.
Brilliant.
I don't give them the answers.
Brilliant.
I try to get them to thrash out their own answers, and only where they get stuck, then I say, listen, okay, come for best practices.
Yeah.
But it's amazing if they find each other. I mean, I also had couples that say, how many times do you think must we have sex? And the guy said twice a day. The girl said, great, looks good for her.
Okay, amazing.
I said, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So couples differ. So here we are. But that is the intimacy part. People tend to focus only on sexual intimacy, but that's a barometer of a relationship. Because if you feel not safe, and then you cannot open yourself up to another person,
yes.
and if somebody is having extramarital affairs here, how can they expect you to be there for them? And if people shout on you and become very aggressive, I mean, men love sex, but exposed to a aggressive wife with a very sharp tongue, even their own libido goes out the door.
Yeah.
So, who wants to have physical intimacy with somebody who's so sharp with not a lacquer personality?
Yeah.
So it is a barometer of other things in the marriage as well. So here we sit, and you must manage that part of intimacy, because what is the difference between a friendship and a marriage? It is the depth of sexual intimacy.
Yeah.
And sexual intimacy, you must always realize that physical penetration is not the only sex. I mean, what is your biggest sex organ? It's your skin, touch.
Yeah.
What is your most important sex organ? It's your brain. How do you become one of mind with another person? And sex has got different aspects. It is sometimes tension relieving, sometimes something fast. It's sometimes a thing that is so intense that it is the merging of two souls almost.
Yeah.
So it is. How can people play the field and know that sex takes on different forms? So it's physical connection. But then that's just one wheel of intimacy. The 4 wheels of intimacy would be physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Now, usually when a couple start, they don't have a 4x4, they have a 2x4. Oh man, we are physically so nice, and oh man, we can spiritually connect so well. But then later on, where's the emotional wheel? There's no emotional connection. And where's the intellectual wheel? We can't talk. I mean, the joke people made during COVID. Said, "Now I had to talk to my wife. What an interesting person she turned out to be."
Yeah.
You see, so people miss those wheels.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, life will give you muddy roads or sand roads, and then you will get stuck if you only drive a 2x4. You need the 4x4 of intimacy to carry you through in life.
Wow.
Because what if your partner is sick and there is no chance for physical intimacy? And then you build on emotional intimacy. I'm glad that you say that. People underestimate men. They think men are just after the sex. No, it is a question. You also have emotions. You also want to be emotionally connected.
Yeah.
So as far as the 4x4 of intimacy is concerned, people say, but listen, you only talk nice to me because you want sex. You know how I usually sort that out? I do it for my own life, and I advise men to say the same, to say, listen, you know what is my intention with you, my dear loving wife? I want to have as much as possible physical intimacy and sex with you, which is possible within a given lifetime. So my intention is clear.
Yes.
But guess what? That's not all. There's more.
Yes.
It's like these advertorials. There's more.
Yeah.
I want to have as much as possible emotional intimacy with you, which is possible within one given lifetime.
Yeah.
And I want as much as possible intellectual intimacy with you, which is possible within one given lifetime.
Yeah.
And as much as possible spiritual intimacy with you, which is possible. So if you ask me about my intentions, they're clear.
Yeah.
I want to be there.
Yeah.
I want to have all.
Yeah.
And then obviously when that is the case, is I marry you because I want to be intimate with you.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been single for long, you know how lonely it can be.
Absolutely.
In single life, you can make a success out of it. There are 2 valid lifestyles, single life and relationship lifestyle. But if you go for it, go big.
Yeah.
So if you go for marriage, go for intimacy. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And don't let the thing die out, because it's an early warning system. Come to the table and say, listen, there's something wrong. The early warning system is picking something up here. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Come to the consulting room table and talk it out before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. So during that the 4 stages of intimacy, you delve deeper into each and every one of those, unpacking them. Yeah. And but what does emotional intimacy look like?
Emotional intimacy is about a lot of men. I mean, I was once teaching a workshop for the engineering pool of that big petrochemical company.
Yeah.
And one of the men came afterwards to me and to say they said 2 things. He said, "So Gustav, it's not that I don't have emotions. I'm just not in contact with them." And she said that actually my wife's need for emotional intimacy is actually not wrong. Because if you're an engineer, you're not necessarily programmed that way.
Yeah.
And then say, but you know what? You must never take your work problems home. You know what I told them or try to teach them? Take your emotions about your work problems home. Your wife is good with that.
Yeah.
She can actually talk about your emotions. I mean, I grew up in a very, very family who lives up here in our heads, intellectual family.
Yeah.
And I had to learn through other people emotional connection.
Wow.
And I was one-dimensional. I just thought, I mean, I must thank a girlfriend here and a friend there, whatever, to say, they taught me about emotions, emotion connections. Wow, this is like just living on the surface, on the sea, and then start scuba diving. There's a whole new world down there. Explore.
Yeah.
It is amazing to be emotionally connected.
Yeah.
And the brave engineers, they say men are like mascara, they run at the first sign of emotion.
Yeah.
Be brave. Come on, confront stand there, get the emotion, know how to deal with it. I've seen so many people, I mean, the lack of emotional intelligence, because they're so super intelligent in other places, but
Sure.
the demise of many men is and women as well, is the lack of emotional intelligence, that I cannot use my emotions as a driving force. People, it is fantastic to delve into that world.
Yeah.
Take your goggles, go to explore what is in the field of emotional connection. And the emotional connection is you must get words for your emotion.
Okay.
And even if you're not capable of writing a poem to your lover or son, that is why there are songwriters. Play a song. So this song verbalizes it. Get a poem. Even in spiritual connection, a psalm, this is my spiritual feeling. I cannot write a psalm, but David wrote a fantastic one, and this is now I find my feelings in that. You know, what is the definition of a poem? It's a compactly packaged emotion.
Yeah.
And if you combine nice lyrics with nice music and you play it to your loved one, you say, this is how I feel. So, wow.
Amazing. Okay.
That's connection.
Yeah.
So on that field, there are practical questions: how to do all of this, but also how to, especially on a physical side, how to manage all the sometimes messy practicalities of sex and intimacy.
Yeah. And you delve deep in there. No
Sure.
secrets.
This is why the men love this program. that is the part they like most.
I want to start with that.
Okay, no, sorry guys, number 3, first communication. Yeah, I see, you see.
That's brilliant. Gustav, let's talk about point number 4.
You know, point number 4 in the 10-thing to-ring plan for a happy marriage would be children. Because there's a great risk if you sleep together that you will have children.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of things. Do you want children, number 1? How many do you want? And what if you cannot get children? What if it is biologically not possible? So there are so many expectations to clarify here. Because if you just marry another person to use that person just to help you to procreate and to get somebody to inherit all your money, that's the abuse of a person. There must be real love. What is the role of children? You know, there are a lot of fights because people have different examples of raising children. So, no, you're too hard on the children, or no, you're too soft, or you're spoiling them. So there's a lot of things to be clarified on, number 1, how to raise children, how many children you want, what to do with them, their place, do they have a role? Because the funny thing in a marriage is you marry, as a man, you marry a woman, and then you end up with 2 women, a woman and a mother.
Yeah.
And she ends up with 2, a father and a man.
Sure.
So suddenly you are married to 2, because I actually love to look at mothers, because there's something so beautiful, and probably people can enjoy looking at fathers because there's something so beautiful, the caring, the trying to bring security to the process. So there's a beautiful new dimension of a being.
Yeah.
But then you're not just married to a mother. Now, who's got the priority, the children or the partner? And who feels left out in the process. So you can just imagine there are so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And that it interferes because it's a hard job. So now I have to tend to the children, and now you want to make physical demands on me, and I don't have energy, and I mean all those questions. So how do you manage that? And the man said, listen, now I've got responsible, now I've got mouths to feed, now I'm working harder, now I'm more absent. For the women as well, it can be the same. It can be the whole question of can children reap havoc sometimes with intimacy? So when do you do it now? So do you have energy left? So the whole question about raising children, what value system are we going to instill in our children? And that links to the other ring of spirituality. So if people have different spiritualities, of different views of the world, then there's a huge fight about children. And then immature parents use children to get on their side. So they try to get, so the mom wants the son on her side and the dad wants the daughter on her side, and it's a mess. So there are a lot of things that you must come to terms with. So you must clarify expectations and when to let go. There are good families getting a sort of a stable launching pad, giving a stable launching pad for their children to go into life. But you also get toxic parents. That they have their own issues. They try to play it out. People with unfulfilled ideals, and they want to instill it in their children instead of allowing their children to be themselves. And raise children. To raise children the same, you must raise them differently because they are different. They have different personalities. So there's a lot of things on this area. That you must open the conversation about clarifying expectations, and then come to a specific agreement. And if you get stuck, this is especially where there are fantastic coaches in the world available to help you how to raise your children according to their personality type, and how to really not to kill your children in the process, emotionally in whatever way, but really help them to create a space which is conducive for growth for them to go into the world.
Yeah. I've got a huge appreciation for point number 4, because I know, talking out of experience, that there's nothing that impacts a marriage more than that phase of your life where you're having children. Because I mean, it changes everything, and I don't think couples plan for it.
Yeah. And the high intensity, I mean, sometimes at a specific stage in your life, it is a family with military precision. I mean, you see on the fridge there, pick this child up, this child, who's going to do what, where, when. That is a scary part. And then the time, I mean, children, how do they spell love? Time. So do you spend time with them? And very often when you didn't do that, then at the end of their life, you've taught them. So then suddenly they fly away, and there you sit alone. And then also when the children leave the house, the empty nest syndrome. So you have to, and then what do we, if we just live through the children to each other, so how can we do the upkeep of our relationship and have the children there? So you can just think, this is probably one of the most important fingers in the 10-thing to ring plan for a happy marriage.
Absolutely. Gustav, let's chat about point number 5.
So point number 5 in the 10-thing to ring plan for a happy marriage would be a very interesting one. And I would call it lifestyle or family culture. Now, that's an interesting one. Now, lots of people, here you have a time. You have a family of origin, but you have a family of destination. So your marriage life is your family of destination. Now, you come from a family culture. Now, couples very often come to me and then they fight. Young couples, especially in the 20s, they do this often. They say, in my house we did it like this. And then in my house we did it like this. You know? And then I look at them and say, how about going back to your own houses, guys?
Yeah.
So,
rather stay there.
Go back. In your house you played cricket. In your house you played rugby. Now you're playing tennis. You want to play tennis with cricket and rugby rules.
Yeah.
That was then. This is now. So you're in a new game. You're in a new era. You have the chance to design. So part of this marriage preparation is that you go and sit and say, what was the good things in both partners' families which you want to include in your new lifestyle?
Amazing, yeah.
What are the horrendous things that you want to keep out of play, that you say, please, I don't want this in my new relationship. But people don't realize you've got the power in your hands to design something new,
Amazing.
to design a new family. So instead of fighting about things, how about having a conversation of best of both
Yeah.
and keep the worst of both out of play?
Yeah.
So that is the whole question of lifestyle. So what do you do if you get the lap of luxury girl marrying the one to camp in a tent in the game park or the national park guy, the stingy guy who just wants to have a small tent there in the corner?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a recipe for disaster. These small things are deal breakers in the relationships. So my wife and I mean, we were mountain people. They were sea people. Guess what? Must we now fight? Must we go to the mountains on holiday or must we go to the seaside?
Yeah.
You know what? Now we go to both places.
Yeah.
My life was enriched. Her life was enriched. So how about best of both?
Absolutely.
So lifestyle is the way we do things. It is what other things. You know, children find their identity in family culture. There's no national culture is too wide nowadays.
Yeah.
But they find their identity because they need identity in order to make their matches in the world. So they find their identity, and this is the way we do things. We are the sporting family, or we are the cultural family, or we are love choirs, or we are whatever it is, whatever your thing is. Every family has got their thing. So this is, but then this one partner does his thing, and the other partner never gets a chance to do her thing. That is unfair. So how do you allow to do best of both? So create a lifestyle. And it is unfair to expect of other person just to do it. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Guess what? Later on, your partner will take the highway
Yeah.
and leave you for a better person who has had the sanity to realize that we must make a good mix of best of both and not trying to force your style onto another person. So that's the finger of lifestyle and family culture. The nice thing is you can create a family culture, even if you came from a horrendous family culture.
Yeah.
At least you've got a new chance. Use it.
You've got a blank canvas. You can paint it.
Yeah.
But this is amazing, Gustav, because we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about these things. You know, if I marry a golfer who's going to spend most of his time over weekends on the golf course, we need to talk about these things, and I have to make a decision. Listen, can I live with this for the rest of my life or not?
Exactly. So this is the whole question of clarifying expectations, because if you cannot come to a communal lifestyle, then you will grow apart later on in life.
Yeah, amazing. Gustav, let's talk about point number 6.
You know, point number 6 in the 10-thing touring plan for a happy marriage would be boundaries. Now that's a very, very interesting concept. There's a book written about boundaries. You cannot only just focus on boundaries, because what do you need boundaries for? To create a safe space for intimacy. So boundaries is not the most important one. Intimacy is. But you need boundaries to do intimacy.
Okay.
So I always say you're the king and the queen of your castle, or the prince, the young couples, the prince and the princess of the new castle. So the castle needs boundaries. Why? Because you need a safe space. Love is like a fire. You need a fireplace to keep it safe. It's like a glass of water. You need some boundaries around. The love is the water, but the boundaries is the safe space where it must be kept.
Yeah.
But now there are 2 people living in the castle, and there are people not interested in your boundaries. There are actually, you know, sometimes it is blatant. I do work in a specific town. A person nowadays said it's one of the most immoral towns that you can work with, that you can see, because there are a lot of wealthy people, and they blatantly go to another person, say, your husband's not looking well enough after you. I can give you a better life. I mean, so here they are in the castle. Other people are blatantly wanting to break down the wall, come in, and either steal the prince or the princess.
Yeah.
So the first boundary is you must have boundaries of other people wanting to come in and mess up your relationships. So
Outside boundaries.
outside boundaries, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the boundaries around the relationship.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, what about exes? What about previous? What about if it's a second marriage? What about the mother of this person's first 2 children?
Yeah.
So you need boundaries with that. So you need boundaries with mothers-in-law or fathers-in-law. You get some very good mothers-in-law you get some serious intrusive ones.
Yeah.
And they do not respect boundaries, because how can you take their little lamb and now they lose out on that and they're actually jealous, and so there are bad things happening out there. Fortunately, there are fantastic mothers-in-law and people who have a good run there in the relationships. But so that is boundaries. It is also boundaries about previous girlfriends. A lot of things happen. So how are you going to deal with the fact that you had a bachelor life or a bachelorette life, and now you want to go and have fun with your friends, your male friends or your female friends all the time? So are you going to continue to try to live like a bachelor? Or are you going to go and sit and go into a place where let's say, this is my priority relationship?
Yeah.
And sorry, I'll go on a weekend away with the boys, or a hunting weekend or whatever, or a girls' weekend. My wife and I, we give each other the space. She has got a specific conference which she loves to attend and take the girls, and I have my one or two things that I do on my own. And obviously, sometimes you've got male friends. You need a person from the same sex to talk about things, and sometimes I need to talk about men to get more testosterone into the conversation. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But there are boundaries. So these are the boundaries for the outside people. That is probably, if we talk about marriage, it is the most important thing. Psychologically, there's also the inner boundaries, that you must also respect my boundaries.
Okay, personal boundaries.
Personal boundaries, yeah. That is in the relationship. You need personal boundaries for that, so that the whole question of assertiveness, you just cannot walk into my space and bully me into things. I also have the boundaries. You must also respect me. You must also ask permission.
Yeah.
I was the other day, basic boundaries of in-laws coming to visit. There are some simple rules that I suggest. So is it just an open door, anybody can walk in, anybody can walk out of your house? No. If it's your own house, yes. If you cohabitate with another person, you ask the person. Yes. If I want to invite, a friend phones me, says, I'm in town, can I come over? As men we know, obviously from my side it's okay. Let me just phone my wife.
Yeah.
No, you can't. It's not convenient. Do you know, it's the final exam of the children. It will not work. Okay, but anyway, you go and sit in the coffee shop with him and so on. So we sort it out.
Yeah.
So it's not just I can bring anybody into our space without asking permission.
Yeah.
If it's our shared space, we need to ask permission. But then obviously the personal boundaries are also important, that you have to respect a person's boundaries, and you need some time out. You need some, especially introverts, they need more boundaries, because they give a lot of themselves, and they need to sit on their own to sort of, it's like the well, all the water was taken from the well, so you must sit and sort of get it to become full again. So with boundaries, it's a very important thing. That's probably one of the things that most people forget to talk about before that.
Boundaries.
Especially, I see a lot of people, they try to continue their bachelor life. They want to be married, but have all the privileges of a bachelor life. It won't work. Don't bother. Don't even get married. I have programs to help people make the best of their single lives as well. Come to that program.
Yeah.
Leave the marriage.
Yeah. Don't even go there, because it's going to be absolute chaos.
It's going to be chaos, yeah.
Gustav, we've talked about boundaries. Where do we? What's point number 7?
Point number 7 in the 10-thing touring plan for a happy marriage would be roles. I mean, if you get into a relationship and you share a household, there are tasks to be shared.
Yeah.
Who's going to do the dishes? Who's going to fix the car? So the different roles in the relationship.
Shared responsibilities. Eh?
Exactly. And it is really unfair if you go in there for a joyride and you say the other partner must get all the responsibilities, and I'm just sitting here and enjoying myself.
Yeah, wow.
And watching TV or doing my nails or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So here there must be a clarified role sort of definition. Who does what when?
Yeah.
And they're not just, this is mine and not yours and so on. There must be like a good boss. A good boss is the boss of a company, but the cleaner must clean. But if he sees something lying around, you will also pick it up.
Yeah.
So there's not a crystal clear role differentiation. It is role clarification, but then there must be role diffusion, that everybody does everything to do the upkeep of this relationship.
Yeah.
So it can be a deal breaker if one is just a lazy person doing nothing. So there must be a shared responsibility. Why not? If you want to have the advantages, share the responsibility.
Brilliant. Let's talk about point number 8.
Point number 8 of the 10-thing touring plan for a happy marriage is probably one of the biggest ones. We can have a whole program about that, and that's about personality differences and gender differences. I mean, you have got a lot of differences. You marry a person different from yourself. Obviously, the opposite sex. This is why you're attracted to that person. Obviously, personality differences. You were born that way, and temperaments. Obviously, cultural differences. There can be even different races. There can be even different provinces that you come from. There can be even people coming from the rural areas and then the city life. You've got the city slickers and the farm boys and farm girls and so on. So there's a lot of differences. There's a basic rule here. The bad thing about marriages is that the wedding day is the becoming one of two people. And sometimes if they don't manage this part well, then the rest of the wedding is to fight which one.
Well.
So is my personality going to get the upper hand? So I'm an extrovert, so we have to go to all the parties, but you're an introvert, so I'm tiring you out and dragging you to all the parties. Or I'm an introvert, so I keep you at home and I frustrate you because you cannot go anywhere. Or there's typical male-female differences that they say, I'm right, you're wrong. And usually when marriages go bad, then the men come together and say, oh, women is like this. And then women get together and say, oh, men are like this and so obnoxious and so on. No, it's just the inability to deal with differences. Love is the ability to deal with incompatibility. Because sometimes we're totally opposite. So don't try to make the other person like yourself. I don't want to make my wife personality-wise and otherwise like myself. Otherwise, I've got more of myself. I've got enough of it. I want something different. So this is the whole question of polarity. Polarity. So if you've got a battery, here's positive, here's negative. Now, which one is right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if the jumper leads touch, then the sparks fly. So this is why there are so many fights in marriages, because the sparks fly because of the differences. But if you put a light in between, you will illuminate the marriage. So it is polarity management. So this is diversity intelligence. I do a lot of programs for corporates on how to get different people to share square meters together for peace and for profit. And where do you get it? In the bedroom and the boardroom.
Amazing.
And the sports field.
Yeah.
So here we are, and we sit and we must get the basic principles. I call this diversity intelligence. The inability to deal with differences. Because usually the death knell for diversity management is, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
So you're a critic. It is the gender critic or the personality critic or the cultural critic. But if you at least say, I'm right, you're interesting, where are you coming from?
Yeah.
Then that's another story.
Yeah.
So you see, there is a big difference here. So that you can come to this point to say, but listen, we can share square meters for peace and for profit. And this is where people go really into, so how do I take the differences? And then I give them practical tools. You do not have to incorporate everything from another person. You can appreciate things. You can agree to differ. But the basic diversity rule, if I summarize it, for business and for marriage, because for teams, because what is marriage? Just team building on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So it is the whole thing of know yourself, know the other person, adapt your angle. So that's easy. And then if you try it and you sort of get it right, then you reevaluate and adapt again. So I know this is, no, I cannot approach her in this way. I mean, there's a cat person, there's a dog person.
Yeah.
A dog person, they like to be scratched anytime, anywhere, any direction. If a dog person approaches a cat with that, if you scratch a cat, you will be scratched.
Yes.
You rub the cat up the wrong way. So people without diversity intelligence rub all other people up the wrong way, and they wonder why they get scratched and get red blue eyes in the process. So if you know this is the contours of your wife, this is her personality, this is what her femininity brand looks like, this is what your masculinity brand looks like. So then this is nose, this is tail. You take this direction, happiness. You take that direction,
yes,
the nails come out.
Yeah.
Guys, ladies, how difficult is this? It's not that difficult.
Sure.
So know yourself, know the other person. Don't force yourself onto another person. change your approach, change your angle.
Brilliant.
Now, there are, obviously, you can see there's a depth of things. So how do you know yourself? Look in the mirror, ask feedback, use psychometrics, get information from your paradigm. From God, what do they think about you? So this is know yourself, know the other person. I mean, when I grew up, I was a young boy. My dad had a consulting room then on our premises. So the people came in, sat there in the reception room, and then they're writing things. I said, "What are they here for?" No, marriage counseling. No, what are they doing? They're writing tests. I said, "No, you have to write a test to get married." I said, "No. If you don't know, you're signing up for an extreme introvert. Later on, you will say, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
You must know beforehand. What are you signing up for?" So it is unfair to keep that information. You must clarify this information. So people don't use, people phone me so that I can advise them, give them a list. Which psychometrics is the bare essential psychometrics you have to know even before you get married. With psychometrics, you can shorten your curve. You know, you've got 3 selves, the one you think you are, the one other people think you are, and one you really are.
Yeah.
So how do you get in the Johari window, the unknown spots, make that visible? Through psychometrics. You get biometrics and psychometrics. What is psychometrics? It's the MR scan. It's the X-ray of your inner being, so that you reveal that to a person. I've got a program which I call the See Me program. This is who I am. Who are you? This is dating. So let's put this together. Is there chemistry? And there will always be things where there will be difficult things to manage. Then you know. At least you make a list. I help people with a plan. How do you do that? Do it intentionally. Otherwise, do it like the old people. Fight it out. Come to the verge of killing each other or divorce, whatever.
Yeah. Gustav, how long does this workshop take? If you have to run through everything with a couple?
It's very simple. It's actually very simple. 5 hours. Some people ask for one day. Give me 5 hours.
Yeah.
But then I give you in 5 hours I can give you the overview of all the 12 and plus number 13 of all the key performance indicators of a happy marriage. And then I launch them on a program that they have the crucial conversations. And then obviously it must be followed up. If they sort it, they sort it. If they're not sorted, then they come back. And then people come and say, listen, we need some best practices where we can't see eye to eye on the different expectations.
Amazing.
So it's the simplest of all things. I'm sometimes so amazed how well it works.
Wow.
Because it's not just a theoretical thing. Let's go the theory of what love is and so on. Man,
this is practical.
If it worked in the past, it would have worked by now.
Yeah. Gustav, I don't want to share all your secrets on this podcast. Can you maybe just mention point number 9, 10, 11, 12, and then obviously we've spoken about 13 a little bit.
Yes.
And then we're going to round it off.
The next one would be then after personality would be the past. Lots of people carry baggage into the relationship.
Yes.
I always say marriage is not a hospital. You don't get married. I'm getting married to get healed. People go to the hospital and get healed and bring a whole person to the relationship, please. Because if you bring brokenness into this relationship, broken people cannot build whole relationships. So you owe it to your partner to say that the pain of the past must be dealt with. Heal the past to get your hands free to live the present, to be able to build a great relationship for the future. And sometimes it is not only the pain from the family of origin. Sometimes people have 20 years of marriage and they cause each other horrendous pain. So you can even deal with the pain inside the marriage, and then get your hands free. There's an old saying: "Don't bleed on people who didn't cut you." So now I'm hating men, and I've got an issue with this because of that. The wrong angle on this is that people have nowadays. I've got sensitivities here, so just dance around my sensitivities.
Yeah,
that is the wrong approach. So just dance around my sensitivities. No, how about getting healing for your sensitivities? That nobody has to dance around your sensitivities. So that is the better approach. So how to go into a process of healing and the responsibility of that. So that is a whole section on that. One of the neglected parts would be number 10. It is the past is one thing, but the future is another thing. Why do you get married? Because I've got a life purpose, my wife got a life purpose. I must help her to achieve her life purpose. She must help me to achieve my life purpose. You know, when people get out of a marriage, is because if you hold me back from my life purpose. if you suffocate me.
Wow.
So this is why a marriage program must then suddenly be supplemented by the life plan. A marriage plan is one of the 8 areas of a life plan. I want to know my wife's life plan. She must know my life plan. She will say, Gustav, I'm your partner. I will help you to live your life purpose and implement your plan. And say, what is your plan? I will help you to do that. That is one of the neglected parts which people really forget about.
Wow.
So that's number 10. The 2 rings is the ring of faithfulness. That's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I've never seen. People say, we have got an open marriage. Yeah. Never seen it work. There's always one partner which is not happy with that, and the other partner is just a pervert trying to get some extra kicks out of other things.
Yeah.
So that's absolute nonsense. So people come there. If you want to get married, be married. It's me, you, nobody else. So that is part of it. And how do you do it? How do you shy away from it? Because what if you are an alpha female or an alpha male? You get a lot of attention. How do you handle the attention? How do you set boundaries? How do you make sure that you don't fall into the trap?
Yeah.
People say, but I get so much feeling about another person. I always tell people, you will get about 37 people in a lifetime who you have this feeling about. So now you're married at number 10. So what are you going to do? Divorce everybody and then go for the other 27?
Wow.
No. There's a boundary. You need to commitment. There's the commitment to faithfulness. It's me, you. And we're there for each other. And it must be in extreme circumstances when people say, listen, there's some real problems here. This asks for a divorce.
Yeah.
This is the second last ring. The other ring is the ring of faith. If you do not share a paradigm, I had two atheists who got married, and one converted and came to a deep, personal, loving relationship with Jesus. The other one divorced her. Said, listen, I didn't sign up for this.
Wow. Sure.
Well, she got the better deal.
Yeah.
See, but the fact of the matter is, if you do not share a paradigm,
Yeah.
so it's the ring of faithfulness. And how do you do your faithfulness? People coming from different churches, they marry from different churches. So
that alone is difficult.
So where do the children, to which church do they go? So that is a whole thing, a whole can of worms to open and to clarify expectations and to manage, and to then also the whole thing about spirituality, in the sense of that if you, even in the same faith, I've got a different spirituality. Now must I once again force my wife to say, you are stupid and my way is the only way? What I like is, perhaps she can be enriched by my aspects of God that I know of. And I can be enriched by her aspect.
Yeah.
So why don't we once again go for best of both, instead of ridiculing the other person on how stupid they are and thinking what they think.
Yeah.
Or believing what they believe. Okay. And then point number 13, the elusive point number 13. The elusive point number 13 in the 10 thing to ring plan for a happy marriage. Remember, I clarified it and I said, these are the plans. And then my wife came and said, Gustav, you forgot one. And it was a very valid contribution, because she said, you know what? What about physical upkeep? Because if you get married, the expectation is that I'm going to procreate with you, and I want you to stay alive to help raise these children. And I want you to not live a reckless life and slowly killing yourself through bad addictions, through poisoning your lungs,
Wow.
through doing all sorts of things. I sit with an expectation that you will not drive recklessly, and that you will actually have a lifestyle of physical upkeep.
Yeah.
Because you've seen a lot of couples. You've got the nice one partner really looking after him or herself, and the other one, they let themselves go. That is wrong. That is sad. So that is not keeping to the deal.
Yeah.
The basic expectation is, at least you will look after yourself. At least you will smell nice. When one client of mine said, how must I love this man? Is lying there, not taking a bath enough, smelling of alcohol and garlic and everything. Now, okay, please love this man. It's an ugly picture to watch. It's not looking after himself. So there's a basic responsibility that you must do your physical upkeep, that you must do not use wrong medications, that you must not use wrong addictive substances, whatever. in order to mess up your body. And then I added to what my wife said, it's not about physical upkeep, it's also about psychological upkeep. Because you know what? It is for all of us possible. There's that deep pit of depression. All of us can walk there and fall into it.
Yeah.
And so what do you do to keep your mind sane? I mean, I know a lot of people, they don't do their emotional, psychological upkeep and they become cranky.
Yeah.
It's not lekker to be married to a cranky old person.
Yeah.
So they didn't do their basic they didn't keep their mind positive. They didn't keep their sort of emotional or mental hygiene. So that is also so important. And then even your spiritual upkeep, that you do not just neglect and say, listen, I lose this and lose my deepest source of intimacy, because what is the deepest source of intimacy? The deepest source of intimacy is with God. And that I do not neglect that relationship, and so that whatever. That is probably one of the best things in this program. Wow. That you sit and you come to a commitment of what are the expectations around the whole thing about physical upkeep.
Wow, that's amazing.
And emotional upkeep and spiritual upkeep, because it is a valid expectation that your partner can expect of you. I've procreated with you. I want a nice partner. Come on, please come to the table.
Yeah.
Be that.
Yeah. And then do you also look at what's going to happen if certain things does not fall into place, or when certain expectations are not met?
Yeah.
And it's got an impact on our family. It's got an impact on our children. Let's say someone.
Exactly. I mean, it's basic things like even weight management and things like that. You must be really fair to your partner.
Yeah.
In this whole thing. But obviously, the last thing is, what if all of this doesn't work? I've seen that people, I mean, if you do this and you do your utmost and you really can clarify things, but if there are people who really do not care and they persist in all the deal breakers, so who cares? I will have my extramarital affairs, and who cares? I don't care about you, and I'm going to keep my obnoxious personality and do not shape my own personality. I'm going to keep the sharp edges of my personality. Over a long time, people can kill a marriage. The danger is people either divorce too soon because they don't work enough, or they divorce too late when they're totally broken. And as a last resort, obviously I have a plan how to divorce successfully. If you cannot make a success of marriage, at least divorce successfully, even for the sake of your children. But that's a conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
But there must always be an option that if you misbehave, so there's no blanket thing. I will stay married to you, whether you crook me 10 times, I will always just stay married to you. I mean, once you've physically, there's infidelity, the marriage is broken. It's not even that you have to dissolve it. It is broken. You can decide to try to heal it. So sometimes it is, in fact, it is broken. De facto, to use judicial terms, it is broken. So de jure, in legal terms, then we must just dissolve this already broken thing.
Wow.
So that is where infidelity comes in. But there's also a situation where there's serious abuse, where a narcissist is there, or where there is some serious violence in there. To sentence a person, that makes marriage a sentence and not a word. Because if you sentence a person, say, even though you're abused, you just stay there for the sake of keeping the form intact. No, I don't sentence people to hell.
Yeah.
So people have the right to say, listen, I'm so abused here, I must get out of this or I'm going to die.
Yeah. Gustav, this program that you offer is, I think, a must do for any couple planning to get married, and for any couple that want to revive their marriage. Where can people get hold of you?
My website's gustavgous.co.za, international gustavgous.com. Gustav, and my surname is Gous, Gous.
Okay.
So, and people can Google me. They will see it on my website.
Brilliant. Gustav, it's been such a pleasure to have you in studio today. Thank you so much for sharing all that information with us today. I know this is going to make a huge impact in many couples' lives. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And there's one last website that people always also can use. It is attached to one of my radio programs, Fix vir die Lewe, which is Afrikaans for Fit for Life. And there you can get also further information on these programs. fixvirdielewe.co.za.
Brilliant. Gustav, you are now a friend of I Choose Us. We're going to have you back for another podcast very soon. Thank you so much.
100%. All the best.
Thanks, Gustav.